The Apple Card is a very interesting credit card. It's been talked about all over the internet, and a lot of people like it and a lot of people hate it. The Apple Card is kind of a multi-billion-dollar disaster. Today we're going to talk about it. My name is Sean and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherwin. Today on the Credit Card BS podcast, we're going to delve into Apple Card's troubles. And we've long hated this card, to be honest, so this sort of doesn't surprise me, but it's very interesting to think about the relationship between like actual value you get from a credit card and how much effort they're putting into the marketing of it. And I think sometimes they're inversely correlated. So let's delve into that more deeply. So as I mentioned, Sean and I have long had gripes about the Apple Card. We think it is shiny marketing that disguises lackluster benefits. The main problem, first of all, is that it has a minimal sign-up bonus, right? Sometimes there's no sign-up bonus for it at all, and it boggles my mind, people still sign up for it and use up a 524 slot that could have been like at least $800 in value from another bonus, okay? So first of all, I think if you sign up for this, you just flush at least $600 down the toilet because you took up a spot. Even when they have had a bonus, it's usually pretty sad. Like, I've never seen anything more than $200, to be honest. Usually it's around $75 to $125. And you're lucky if it's Apple Cash. Sometimes it's Nike gift card. So, I've never felt compelled to sign up for it. Now, I think the silliest part of it is that the main draw of this card is that you get 2% back when you use Apple Pay, which is entirely stupid in my opinion, because there are so many cards out there that will just give you 2% back on everything, regardless of whether you use Apple Pay. Cards like the Wells Fargo Active Cash, cards like the Citi Double Cash, etc. And some cards even offer 2x transferable currency points where you can get more value. So those are my main gripes. Sean, anything to add?
Well, I think it's also funny, like the US Bank Altitude Reserve, literally earns more points when using Apple Pay than the Apple Card, right? Because you're earning 3x on the US bar. And yeah, so I think, it doesn't make sense. It's entirely marketing. It's entirely, oh, look at my flashy metal card that makes a sound. And look, I like a metal card as much as the next guy. I like, the sound that it makes, but it's silly to get one, when literally you're losing out on hundreds of dollars of value compared to other cards. But I mean, that's not even that's not even the only issue, right, Sherwin? So we're going to talk about now kind of what have been more of the actual, like, kind of the, I don't want to say legal, but more of the, how would you say, some of the issues the Apple Card has encountered.
Yeah, so recently the CFPB which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a federal agency who's tasked with regulating banks and their behavior toward consumers. They fined Apple and Goldman Sachs $89 million. Some of the issues they identified, including Apple and Goldman Sachs failed to process and investigate credit card disputes opened by their customers, contrary to the requirements of federal law. They also misled consumers about interest-free payment plans, specifically when buying Apple devices using Apple Card. Also, by the way, please don't go open an Apple Card just to buy Apple devices because they give you an extra % of cash back. I've seen so many people do this. It's generally not worth it. But they made it seem like the monthly payments were interest free, even though they were not interest free. And that was deceptive to consumers. They got fined for this. So this is just a continuation of Goldman Sachs's problems with the Apple Card portfolio. Sean, did you have anything to add before I talk more about that history?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, we can cover the history now.
Yeah. To be honest, Goldman Sachs, this has been a very, very bad deal for Goldman Sachs. I think this is their only major credit card product. And honestly, they've been trying to leave this contract for a while. This card launched in 2019. It's been reported that they lose billions of dollars each year. And I think this is because of Apple's marketing angle push, right? So Apple is a very well-known brand. People will get things merely because they are Apple, right? So they have a lot of leverage to negotiate because of their strength of the branding and marketing. And they made Goldman Sachs do things that normally other credit card issuers wouldn't do. For example, the Apple Card, they'll pretty much approve anyone, to be honest. They hand this out like candy. Like Apple sort of made Goldman Sachs approve like subprime creditors. So the portfolio has had an unusually high default or charge off rate. And this is defined as like people who haven't made their minimum monthly payment for like 6 months. Which is crazy to me that someone would do that, but it unfortunately is pretty common in the industry. And the percentage of people who do this for the Apple Card is just like much higher, even compared to like Capital One or whatever. So they've like lost billions of dollars from just like people defaulting on their credit card balances, which is crazy, right? Right. So, yeah. And Sean, do you agree with this theory of like, oh, this is like part of them trying to get more people have the card regardless of the financials? I feel like Goldman Sachs really got a horrible deal in that sense.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, from Apple's perspective, it's kind of interesting, right? Because they're kind of making this other company take a lot of the loss, and they're getting a lot of the perks if they're getting all these people to sign up for the card. A lot of them, because they're also, subprime. This might be like one of the only cards they can actually get, and so this is a way for Apple to get people into this ecosystem. And when you have an Apple Card, it probably makes people want to buy Apple products more. And it does a lot for the marketing side of things. You get people like hooked into your ecosystem. And Apple tries to present themselves as like almost like a luxury goods brand, but they actually, don't in any way want to actually be exclusive because they want everyone to buy their products. So that's that's the interesting side of it. And it's really interesting to see how they're kind of leveraging the card as like essentially just a marketing play. And one thing I'm really curious is to see like what their acquisition cost is per customer, because I would imagine it is like remarkably low, just because they're leveraging their existing brand, they're not providing a sign up bonus, right? I think, and their multiplier, and their actual like rewards are so low. So I wonder, what their actual acquisition cost is, because I would imagine, in this space it would be remarkably low.
Yeah, I don't think it's that high either, but I think maybe perhaps acquisition cost is baked into like the high default rate, just like the risk that someone will just not pay their balances. So that that's probably part of it. I would also say this sort of awfully reminds me of Built a bit in their relationship with Wells Fargo. Though not exactly the same. Like obviously, I think the Apple and Goldman Sachs thing is a total disaster, and I would not say that's the case for Built and Wells Fargo. But if you've seen the reports, like Wells Fargo has had to spend an enormous amount of money, like upfront losses, to acquire customers via Built, because you're paying money each time Built brings them a new customer. And Built's sell to Wells Fargo is like, hey, instead of you issuing a $600 sign up bonus, we'll use our marketing and branding to bring customers in, and you don't have to issue a sign up bonus for Built. But you're just gonna pay us a couple $100s. So they spend a lot of money acquiring customers that way. I sort of think it's a similar phenomenon with the Apple Card, but at least the Built Card, you are getting better value. Like I think the partnerships actually make sense. They have good travel partners, they have good transfer partners and stuff. Whereas Apple Card is like the benefits are really lackluster. But I think where the Apple Card excels is like their tech integration. Like I've heard people who use it really love the app because it allows them to track their spending. Like, oh, I'm spending so much less money now that I can actually see how much I'm putting toward things. I think that's total BS. But that's a feature people like. They also deposit the 2% cashback or whatever percent cashback like daily instead of monthly, which I don't really care for. But apparently that's like a big deal. Consumers, even though like people who get hooked into this are probably paying like way more in interest than the 1 or 2% cashbacks. It doesn't make sense for them anyway. Anyway, those are just some rambly thoughts I had about the card. Also, it's so stupid that you get 2% when you pay with Apple Pay, and then they like issue you this like beautiful metal titanium card that like if you use, you're only gonna get 1% cash back on. So
yeah, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of it. And I think it's interesting how like with this, the Apple Goldman Sachs partnership, it's interesting compared it to Built and Wells Fargo, because Built and Wells Fargo, right? Even if Wells Fargo is losing money, at least there's a better argument for cross-selling to Wells Fargo products, right? Like you get a built card, okay, Wells Fargo in theory could cross-sell you to a lot of like their other credit card products or their banking products. The average Apple Card consumer, there's not like, in the same way, you can't really cross-sell to a lot of Goldman Sachs products as effectively as you can with Wells Fargo. And so I think that's one thing that like marks a very big difference between them, and why it's like, even if Wells Fargo is losing a lot of money, it's not as big of a deal. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I really don't see the cross selling value. I think this was overall just a bad deal for Goldman Sachs. So let's wrap up here today. What do you think of the Apple Card? What do you think of these recent fines from the CFPB? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Also, if you want to apply for a card, please consider using the referral links down in the description below. It greatly helps support our channel. Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
So if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts, check out the Travel Lane Discord at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.